Welcome to my channel, 12 Bells. How are you? So, I wanted to talk about the Rick Chow case that happened in 2023 in Columbia, South Carolina, and have a guest that is not only a New York City advocate and activist, but also a major advocate uh, for Korean and Asian people. And, what better person to have talk than a person that is of Korean descent, since Rick Chow is Korean. We hear so many people online talking all kind of stuff and not really talking about unity or the facts. They're going off on past experiences with Asian people that has been disruptive or unhappy. They've been unhappy with them. So they've been acting up, right? And I don't know if, hold on, guys. I got a call from my guest, my guest. I don't know if anybody's typing in the comment section, but I don't see any comments. Text me the link. Okay, here it is. Welcome in, Brutal Self Defense. How are you? Let me see. So in order to get on the StreamYards, you would have to be on StreamYards. So the link is in the chat for you, Ed. Because you have to be on StreamYards. This isn't YouTube. This is StreamYards. So you have to hit the StreamYards link. And hopefully we'll get to see him and he can tell us his views on the Rick Chow case regarding the 14-year-old Cyrus Belton being unalived. As many of you may know or you may not know, but Rick Chow, interestingly, had a Black lawyer to represent him on his case. And that was that's something that I think is notable, right? You should note that he did that, uh, because I think that was very interesting. And that's, let me see, hold on. I'm trying. How are you?
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about the wait. I'm good. I'm here. I'm actually inside of Target right now. I actually went to One Court Square downstairs, but all the seats are taken. So I'm just walking around on a rainy day. What's up? So yeah, nice to speak with you. Actually, this is something I want to talk about. So thank you so much for having me on. Actually, I did not know until you texted me about like maybe half an hour ago if the guy was even Korean American. His name, Richard Chow or Rick Chow, is not a typical Korean name. Usually the names in Korean are going to be Lee, Park, Kim, Choi. Chow is not really a Korean name, so he might be ethnically Chinese. I got to look it up. He could be ethnically Korean, not really sure.
So what do you think about the whole situation? Because as a result, people have been protesting establishments that are typically by Asian Americans, and I don't think that that's the way to go, especially since it's like pushing racial bias and continuing to move forward with hate. And I just wanted to know what was your views as a person that represents this population.
I think there is something to be said for it. I think there are reasons against it, and I appreciate your vision on that. One of the real issues, right, is that black people don't really own their own businesses and stuff like that. So, as in terms of that, right, in terms of supporting black, I'm not against that at all. I do, but the thing is that if we take a look at let's take it for instance, like hip hop, right? Like I remember when hip hop back in the '90s, there was actually a clothing brand called Carl Kanai, which was actually a black fashion designer, which was actually something supposed to be cool, right? I think it was original before, Rockwear, before Wear, before all those other things, right? It was really Carl Kanai was kind of like the OG hip hop fashion designer. But then they were straight up abandoned for, you know, was it like Tommy Hilfiger and this other stuff? So it's kind of lame, right? But it happens. So there are good discussions. There are valid discussions about why, a lot of the businesses inside of black communities are not actually black, right? But the thing is that also Asian Americans ended up there because of, no one else wanted to. The people they wouldn't give loans to black people. Number one. Number two, people were scared to open a business inside those communities. But another thing is that Koreans and Chinese are not the same. We, even though our struggle is not talked about, we actually survived the war. So you have to understand that there was cannibalism going on. There was just like so much that is just never addressed. So as in terms of like when you are in those environments, there's a lot of crime that happens of desperation. And Koreans, that's why Koreans, when you try to rob them, they grab the guns right away. Because the thing is that, we went through a Holocaust that's just not acknowledged. So the fact of the matter is that we've seen desperation and hunger in ways that other people might not really be able to really comprehend or understand. So we will defend our own, right? And that's what we understand. So when we were told that, well, you can open this store we'll give you a loan to open the store inside of this community right here. We're like, we'll take whatever you give us. We have nowhere to go but up. We have nothing. We just survived the war. So, also the thing is that when Asian Americans do negative things, right? That can be held accountable. But the thing is that when they do something positive, such as my long-standing work with like the long-term man in New York State history and U.S. history, this is not discussed at all. In fact, the knowledge about this information is suppressed. So this is meant to. There's a certain narrative that people can benefit by weaponizing our communities against each other. And if you listen to the words of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, right, and influential people in the space, in the work called Message to the Grassroots, you'll see that he talks about Koreans. He mentioned the word Korea several times. And there was even some work that happened between the Black Panthers and Korea, right, with the Cleaver and stuff like that, right? They named their daughter Josu Cleaver after a city inside of Korea because they actually went to Korea and actually conceived their child there. So there's a long history that is actually suppressed, and this is actually blown up. And I appreciate the fact that you're saying that you don't approve of the boycott because the action of one person cannot be used to define everybody, right? Like when a black person was accused of rape right back in the day. What happens is that all the hillbillies would get up and start like burning crosses and start, terrorizing all the black folks for something that one person was accused of did. So, the action of one person cannot be pasted onto many, but this is actually pushed up by a algorithm and people that are making money off the situation. So,
Well, that's what I feel is very clear about. It's about people making money off a situation because he was just advocating for illegal immigrants. So how can we go from supporting the move for illegal immigrants crossing our border illegally and making sure we have funding for them to be housed to now we're attacking an immigrant base of people? That doesn't make sense to me. And yes, you mentioned that Martin Luther King and Malcolm X has did a lot of work with Asians, but I find that when you go to certain groups that are advocating, especially for Malcolm X, they do not talk about the diversity within the group. They really don't. Like they never highlight the diversity of the people that advocated in the civil rights movement. We just will focus on Black people, which I don't know why that voice is. If we're giving everybody a voice, so we give everybody a voice, why isn't the representation there? What do you feel that is?
I can tell you why that is. The thing is that the CIA is definitely involved. I know it sounds paranoid, but the fact of the matter is that after the Vietnam War, the thing is that the U.S. populace, right, they saw this kind of merging of civil rights and anti-war sentiment, and they saw these two forces rising together, and they actually rolled out and said, you know what, we got to get this under control if we want to be able to execute I can understand from their point of view too, it sounds messed up, right? It is messed up, but that they're specialists in their field, so they're doing all their, and it's dirty, like COINTELPRO stuff. They're doing all their dirty stuff, right? They're doing all their manipulations in other countries, so we can have our lifestyle, so they can artificially manipulate the dollar, so it's artificially, remains high against the world's currency, so we can, live easy lives. So the thing is that a lot of people in the United States, right, they're not ready to. They engage in something called willful ignorance, right? They know that they're benefiting off of unfair practices, but if they just focus on something else in their life, then they can just ignore the suffering that's actually that they're benefiting off of. So it's and a lot of this, the anti-war movement is highly controlled, as I told you, like by like Epstein type characters that are inserting literal pedophiles. You could also see that we don't talk about with the war against war going on in Palestine. You could see that they don't apply this to issues going on at home. Right now, Puerto Rico has one of the largest land transfers going on in its history, manipulated by Brock Pierce and other billionaires in the crypto space. And somehow this is completely being not talked about at all and being overlaid with other problems from other areas. I like, I'm sorry what Nas is doing about the casino. I don't agree with that, but he does have a line where he says, you can't fix overseas if you can't fix home. So instead of worrying about, pointing the fingers at other places, I'd like to see more of a real discussion. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. We need to have more discussions about what's going on here. And I see some people on the West Coast doing it, and I try to have one on the East Coast here, but there's not a lot of this for all the people that's out there saying negative stuff, especially Dr. Umar Johnson, right? Like, I know you, why don't you just have a discussion with the Asian American person and see what's up? I mean, they're picking and choosing the worst examples to match their bias and their narrative.
Well, maybe they don't have you as a friend, right? So I know you, right? And I know that you are a big advocate on you always throw in something going on with Asian American rights, or if an Asian American is in a political position, why do they not have that reflected in their staff, right? So you're always talking about how there's something wrong. We don't have the proper diversity. But with our new Mayor Zoran Mandami, don't you feel that now we have more diversity with it when it comes to, in East Indian and Asian representation?
Okay, so the thing is that Mayor Mamdani himself doesn't really embrace the Asian American tag because he really, because the African, because he's actually from Uganda, which is actually in Africa. I mean, supposedly he's actually has like a, South Indian background, but if you look at his skin, he could be easily more Arabic than actually, you know, like the Indians are usually darker, right? Just so you know, Indians also have, they also interface with the Greeks during the time of Alexander the Great's, empire takeover of, they did extend over to India. So he may have some background from Europe, who knows, right? So, but as in terms of like not just the Asian Americans, but also the black people that are also then like, I don't know if you know my work with Ronnie Long, one of the guys who was formerly on death row and whose freedom is, whose exoneration is supported by former Governor Jim McGreevey. So someone who worked on his case for a long time got appointed to Mondani's cabinet, and her name is A.O. Harrington. And I contacted, Ronnie Long, I contacted A.O. Harrington. It's just dead silence. And they want, I think that Mayor wants some good things to happen. I believe in the goodness of people overall. But what's got to happen is, I'm not sure it's all his choice because I've seen other places where this happens. But the thing is that all the good things have to happen through their group of controllers. So it's got to happen through DSA or happens through no one. So if someone else is trying to achieve change, for example, you can see that the MAGA movement is actually, starting to go America first, not Israel first, right? They cannot acknowledge it. They cannot work with these people in any way. In fact, they have to sabotage it in order for themselves to become the saviors. So the same thing I think is also going on with this whole Rick Chow incident, right? Like, instead of acknowledging the work that we're doing together, right, there's certain people that are out there that are supposed to be representing Blacks and Asian Americans, and if it doesn't happen through their channel, then it's better to be erased. It's better to, even if it does help our people, mend fences, it has to happen through the gatekeepers.
But I don't think that the diversity that actually exists is even reflected. Like I've said before many times, when it comes to public housing, they do not reflect or highlight Asians that are in public housing.
They are now. Actually, they are now. But the thing is that the Asians there do not speak English, and they're actually under control by the not-for-profit community, and they're making sure that those Asian Americans do not talk with myself, even though I have a long history in public housing. In order to counteract me, they're inserting, and once again, Malcolm X talked about this in Message to the Grassroots, about how other leaders are inserted and they use Black people as well. They insert leaders to speak for us and to control the movement.
Right. They're appointed rather than elected, which I don't know if everyone really understands that. I don't think that people really do a lot of research on their own. I think that we rely on the people that are in front of us, and whatever they say is taken as the research enough, right? So they're doing the research that we need, and whatever they say is acceptable, and we just go along. That's why people would vote Democrats straight down, right? Because they trust the Democrats, they believe in what they're saying, and that's it. I mean, they don't have to do anything else other than listen to the person that's speaking before them.
They don't have the time or the ability to investigate, right? They have other things going on in their lives. And the thing is that we know that there's so many countries in this world, right? Iran, Iraq, right? Africa, right? We've got like, it had like how many countries, right? You know about what's going on in Eritrea right now? It's crazy. They're like considered to be a North Korea-like dictatorship. That's also right by the Red Sea. We also take a look at what's going on in, South Africa and how that plays over with what's going on in Israel, Palestine. Somehow these things are not really being brought into focus together, right? So, yeah, there's all kinds of, that we're supposed to be kept inside of our silos. We're supposed to be kept in manageable units where we don't really cross over. That's why they really don't encourage like interstate activity. So you could see in my, even though I do have like, U.S. presidential candidate stuff like that, if you work for these groups, even like DSA or whatever, you won't really get to know unless you're in a higher up position, have ascended the hierarchy, what they're doing. So you could see in my, even though I do have like, U.S. presidential candidate stuff like that, if you work for these groups, even like DSA or whatever, you won't really get to know unless you're in a higher up position, have ascended the hierarchy You're not really allowed to interact with other state leaders and other groups. This is also true on the right wing, by the way, with Turning Point and all these other groups too. It's pretty much universal, and it's a method of control by the management.
Now, when you mention Ronnie Long, so what is it exactly?
I'm sorry, I lost.
No problem. When it
Let me
comes to
come back in. Maybe.
When it comes to Ronnie Long, what is it exactly? Is the it was the new issue that's going on, because I know that he was seeking exoneration, correct?
Okay, yeah. So the thing is that Ronnie Long has his own case, and Ronnie Long case is actually trying to get exonerated for his own get his own case reviewed. There are a lot of other issues that touch on that. For example, there was so back in Pennsylvania, no, I'm sorry, back in New Jersey where he was, there was actually something called Conviction Integrity Unit, which is actually also a similar organization has popped up here in Queens and also in other parts of the United States. Despite having a conviction integrity unit, they never actually exonerate anybody, I think in like 2-3 years. So Ronnie Long started a petition to have this person removed. And this trick, by the way, is used in many, many instances, right? From, it could be there's another position called I forgot what it's called, but it's they're installed into these administrative organizations to look over corruption or to root out internal problems, right? They'll just appoint a new person and then the problems continue on. Someone was fired, but there's no real accountability and there's no real change in the numbers. So Ronnie Long his case also shows the ineffectiveness of conviction integrity units, or the fact that they must be held accountable or subject to some review. They don't want that. So a universal truth is that with all these organizations, these elitist organizations, these top-down organizations, the people that are affected and impacted, they are prevented from actually being able to interface with what's going on to them. And the thing is, unfortunately, the idea is that's the best don't have time.
You're breaking up. I think maybe because you're in the basement. You're breaking up. I think you have to go further up now.
I'm gonna get by one link Wi-Fi connections. Give me a second. I'm gonna find a Wi-Fi connector. I should be better soon. Okay. So just like I was saying before, this is an attempt for them to silo us off and keep us all contained and controlled in these little manageable pockets.
So when you talk about the organizations, are you referring to Vocal New York and RAP? And because all of these organizations are going to Albany on a regular, asking for integrity units and all of these things. They're advocating for these things and considering second chance and legislation and so forth as wins. Yet, or do you agree that it's a win, or are you saying that it really isn't a win?
Okay. So the thing is that, I should be by the I might get hazy for a second. Can you still hear me? I'm headed towards the I could be breaking up, but it should clear up in a second because I'm headed towards the Linksys, towards the
I hear you fine though. No, there's no breaking up. I hear you fine.
Okay. So the thing is that the people who go to Vocal and RAP and all this thing, and this is true for all organizations, including right-wing organizations, they mean well, but it's really the leadership that is actually co-opted and convinced to.
We lost you.
Certain people, and this can be explicit, or it can be people could be leaned on, and they don't really understand all the stuff, but they know that the person who's feeding them, the person who's giving them their contracts and et cetera, will be unhappy if certain things happen. And, they just don't have to explore it because they become comfortable. Because as they.
And we lost you again. But these are organizations.
The thing is that it's got to be that's why it's got to be a ground up movement instead of having gatekeepers, because they can't control all of us. But by appointing certain people to manage us, that's where we really gets stopped in because people stop thinking for themselves, but allow someone else to determine their opinion, their vote, right, and all that stuff.
Now, you had mentioned earlier about the Trump administration. So, as far as I understand it, the Housing Access Voucher Program has been discontinued from the Trump administration. So, I was recently at a city council meeting for the housing committee, and they said, the representatives there said that the money will be finished for the program because of them no longer extending it to 2030 like they had originally said. It is going to be finished by November 2026. Why did that happen, and what can people do? Why can't people, like, get them to extend that program? It wasn't even originally supposed to be cut off.
The voucher program was a trap from the very, very beginning. Instead of bringing the rent under control, right, and saying, like, I think like they're allowed to raise the rent by like 5% every single year, but no one's getting a raise in their salary by 5% every year. But the thing is that the landowners or the landlords have a disproportionate amount of electoral influence. So to try, the politicians, what they love to do is they love to kick the can down the road. So the thing is that the vouchers were always meant to be a vulnerability within the system where they could be canceled at any moment in order to benefit. That's why a lot of the things that the Democrats and the Republicans actually at the top are working together, and they are both kicking the can down the road in ways that allow them to, claim victory, but really it's not. So the vouchers and stuff, we have to. They cause, just the way that we have an artificial pumping up of the the education, right? We see that the cost of education went up by so dramatically, by a lot, because of government involvement. This same mentality and the same mechanisms were used to artificially pump up the rent. Now the thing is that in New York City, a lot of things that they don't talk about is there's something called the luxury law. And when your rent goes over $2,000 per month in rent, it's considered a luxury apartment, is no longer under rent control. So the thing is that a lot of apartments now, what happens at these developers, when they take over these Section 8 apartments, sometimes they'll even put it at like 1,800 or 1,700. And they know that after X amount of years, after you have compound interest going on, it's going to hit 2,000 plus. So at the end of 10, 15 years, they're going to definitely have a 2,000 plus apartment. They're no longer subject to any rent control whatsoever. This is being, so the vouchers themselves, right? They're a Band-Aid problem on a larger problem, on a cut that's really created in order to artificially allow the landlords to raise the rent to unsustainable levels. So as in terms of correcting for this, I do support making sure that the vouchers get taken care of. But now we have, when you have people giving out vouchers, who gets those vouchers, right? People that are more familiar with the system, people that are patched in. And what happens is that this new COPA thing, COPA? Yeah, Community Operating to Purchase Act. Now the not-for-profits will be able to get in on the game and be able to control elections. And a lot of people want to believe naively, right? And I understand why, right? Like, I think these are good people at heart. They want to believe that the government is playing an honest game and they're going to do the right thing. If we were playing a high school basketball game, it's possible, right, that you could have a clean game. But if you have a professional sports game like NBA, not only do the team members have something to gain, where they're going to give up $100 million in salary, right, in order to try to skew the benefits for their own benefit, right, so they can win the championship. They're going to also, right, the coach will have millions to gain. The guy who owns the stadium will have millions to gain. The referee could potentially make millions in payoffs. The person who owns a merchandise store could make millions in payoffs. There's a lot of people that have something to gain. So what happens is that that's why in professional sports you have so many people using performance-enhancing drugs. The same way, right? There's just too much at stake for it to be a clean game. So the Community Opportunity Purchase Act, things like that, will put the not-for-profits that are supposed to be there to um, fight the good fight, to make sure that things stay honest. Instead, all the trust is put in their hands. Meanwhile, they're really feeding the corrupt systems that allow the elected members to get reelected.
How
And
do we
sometimes,
keep, but how do we keep something honest if we have advocates, right? So like if we're out here, right?
yeah,
Like you're out here, isn't your role helping to keep things honest? Like
the
what
key,
it's like it's
yeah,
like
I
you
could.
say stuff like it's so negative, or it's like going nowhere, but it can't I mean, why would we even encourage advocacy if it's not a plus to it? I mean, it is a positive.
I'm just a band-aid, touch with it. People like me are not the solution. Really, what happens, the key thing is that the people who are impacted, the people who are served by the system have to have a feedback into the system where they could say, what's happening to me is wrong. What's going on here isn't right and it needs to be investigated. But instead, they have celebrities and professionals and managers to come in and say, what's going on here is okay and this is the way we should be doing things. But the people that are impacted don't get a voice. So, and the thing is that instead of people listening to people that are affected, such as like public housing, instead of listening to the residents, they listen to the person who's the head of NITRA. They listen to a reporter, a celebrity who's got something to say about public housing. I don't live in public housing. I should qualify. I'm still trying to get into that, right? I'm still on the street out here, but that's all good. But the fact of the matter is that the people in NITRA really need a better and stronger voice. But instead, 10 associate presidents are bought off. Instead, you get what I'm saying?
I mean, but we and at the
Nothing
city
about us
council
without us. You
meeting,
taught me that.
yeah, but at the city council meeting, we have testimony, and not only nonprofits, we have physical people that are impacted speak.
Yeah.
Um, and Christopher Leon Johnson also has spoke, who's not he's not directly impacted, but he is a on the ground advocate. And I just think that if maybe we encourage more personal testimony, because I think maybe sometimes it's a matter of people not knowing. I mean, I think that we had a lot of impacted people presenting, but I wanted to come back a little bit to the increases. So most people get a quality of life increase, right? So are you saying that that's not enough for those little percentages of increase? I mean, we're supposed to allegedly every year get a quality of life increase, even when you on retirement and SSI. Everybody's supposed to get an increase yearly.
There's a lot of delay that happens, and quality of life increase. Are you talking about like regular people at regular jobs getting a raise in their salaries, or are you talking about like benefits get a quality of life increase, or
I'm
maybe
about
both?
like our regular salary is, because when I was, and like in 2020, in 2022, I would get quality of life increase, right? So you might start at a certain amount, let's say 28,000 a year, but it goes up because you have a quality of life increase,
Okay.
which I think is good. Oh, we have someone that would like to join. How are you, official one SP? What did you want to add? Hey, Chrissy, we can hear you. What did you want to add? No, we don't hear anything. Are you frozen?
Step backstage.
No, no, we hear you. We hear you. What did you want to add?
No, I'm here. Okay, look at me. Look nice. Look good. Normal stuff.
I think that you're. I think that you're going in and out. Do you hear him on your end, DJL?
I hear him cutting in and out. Yeah, I don't really hear him very steady.
We need you to have a stronger signal on when it's speed. Where are you? Yeah, you're like cutting up. So come back in. We'll let him come back in. Welcome in, Chrissy. So again, let me just see. Let him come back in. Maybe he'll have a stronger connection. But again, we want to encourage and definitely remind people that your voice matters and you're important, and we need you to definitely feel that if you do organize people, it does make a difference. Of course, yes, we do have a lot of people that let the a celebrity try to speak on behalf, but I think if you encourage the people that they're enough and that they don't have to reach out. I think for me, I feel like people go to celebrities because they're always thinking about money. I just think that people see the answer to everything as money rather than as what they bring to the table. I think that people immediately feel like they don't have enough as a poor person. Like if we don't have any money, we're not valuable enough. I think our society, because we live in a corporate based society, we just value people with money more. I just think we just value people with money more. And if we don't have money, we don't even value ourselves. I think the majority of people don't feel valuable because they don't have income, and that's not the case. So Ed and me are saying that you're valuable just because you're human, that being a human matters, and that you have rights as a human, and that you don't have to feel less than anybody just because you don't have the income. But does our society feel like that as a whole? I very much doubt it, because I mean they want to have they want to have access to stuff, and usually money gives you access. What do you feel about that, though, DJ Elf?
The areas of activism that are the most what is it called, astroturfed, are actually the housing and the anti-war spaces where they have the most money and the most, militarily to gain. So unfortunately, I've actually gone into public housing and handed out, and had conversations and filmed the whole thing of me going to every single door in the development, knocking on the door, right, handing out flyers. And after doing the entire Reese houses, I got actually 0 hits on my website. The thing is that there's also something called brand recognition, where people, it's just a normal, if people don't see your brand like 6 or 7 times before they actually, engage with you, they don't have that level of trust. So you have to, that's why you'll see, why is Coke advertising at all these football games and stuff like that? Why is that even relevant? Because you need to be aware of their brand. You need to see them again and again and again before, and that's what celebrities have an advantage there. But the thing is that the people in public housing, a lot of them have been trained that someone's going to do the work. Some activists, and a lot of times when I go to knock on their door, they'll say, "What are you going to do for me?" When the fact of the matter is that they're not really ready to do anything for themselves. They want something that's too good to be true. They want someone who come in, who's famous, who's going to just, for some reason, use that fame and wealth to support them in their fight, when they have, anyone in that position already has hundreds of thousands of people already asking them for this and for that, right? And they have no reason to help them. So usually help flows up, right? People with less helping, people with more hoping to get help back, but usually being disappointed. And, the vouchers, once again, I really have low faith in that community's ability to fight for themselves and to organize in an intelligent way, because there's so many tenant associations and, fight the rent, that are occupied by not-for-profit industrial complex people. And these people, they mean well to a certain extent, but now they have a leash on them that's held by the not-for-profit industrial complex and by the elected. And there's certain things they cannot say and will not say. And they're also protecting their own position. So as in terms of the vouchers, just, I work with disabled, you could see right now in the race that I'm running right now, I'm actually in the building right behind me is actually the primary. You can see that despite my long history of working in public housing activism, instead the DSA and One Nitro are actually hosting Mary Jo Bida to try to install her as a public housing activist when she doesn't really know the issues that well. I mean, I think she means well, but she just doesn't know them.
Well, you're running as a Republican.
Yes.
And so tell people about that. So what made you decide that this is the way to go. So you decided. I mean, you have been. I think it
No
was 2
problem.
years ago. You marched in the African American Day Parade with a Trump banner and a group of people
Yeah.
supporting Trump. So you've
Okay.
been maintaining a Republican status for a while, and so what? Why do you feel that way? Why was that the way to go?
Okay, really, the fact of the matter is that I hold New York City's only third-party independent candidates. I've been doing it for several cycles now. I also get together candidates from all across the nation, regardless of party, to try to agree on things. And it never for me was about Trump. It really was about the Trump community. The fact of the matter is that the people in the Republican Party have ballot access. They have, and the thing is that I have an interview with one of the only third-party professors in the nation. His name is Jonathan Martin. And he says that, in some areas, the Republicans are like a de facto, right? Especially in New York, Republicans are like de facto resistance party. So a lot of other organizations organize under the Republican wing, but you could see that I'm not endorsed by the Republican Party leadership, by any of the county committees, things like that. I'm not endorsed by the governor, right, or any Republican electeds at this moment. That could change. But, there's a grassroots movement, the Democrats, Republicans, as well as the Greens and Independents and Libertarians. But being a Republican allowed me to more easily get ballot access. I successfully got onto the ballot my first time running. A lot of people don't make it, even people that teach civics. I've seen them. I think there was a lady named Kimberly Cruz who teaches about civics. She didn't get onto the ballot when she was trying to run against Grace May. She got kicked off the ballot. So I was able to successfully get on. And really, once again, you could see that the Republican Party supposedly has internal dialogue where it's no longer Israel first, but America first. But the thing is that instead of talking to any grassroots people like myself who've been working on this issue for a long time and fighting Israel for a long time, instead they bring in Tucker Carlson and try to anoint him as head of the movement when he really hasn't been involved with on the ground work. It's not just me. The idea is to suppress anybody from the grassroots who's trying to come up. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter.
But when it comes to the mayor stood with Palestine, and he did not march in the Israel Day Parade, where they did ask former Mayor Eric Adams, and he did march. Don't you think that was a bad move for the mayor, and it makes him look like he may be a one-term mayor, especially for not showing support in a general parade?
Okay, let's break it down. What's the largest ethnic minority group in New York City?
I would say the Jewish population.
Okay, let's take a look. What's the population of New York City? About 8.5 million.
Yes.
Okay. And you think that the Jews are the largest minority group in New York City?
Yes.
What about the blacks?
No, I don't think they are. And they've been saying that they've been relocating down south. We've been losing them since we've been losing that population since COVID.
Let's ask. I think I posted this on my. By the way, I have a Facebook group. I encourage people to go there. I actually posted the ethnic breakdown of New York City. So actually, I believe you could look this up right now. I encourage you to do so with an AI or whatever. You could ask Google. I believe there's about a little over 2 million blacks in New York City, making them the largest ethnic minority in New York City. Check it right now.
What's the question you want me to ask Google?
How many blacks are in New York City? What's the population of blacks in New York City?
What's the population of blacks in New York City?
About 2 million.
Biggest black population in the U.S., with about 1.8 million black residents. This group makes up around 20% of the city's total population.
That's only 20%.
Largest black population.
Okay. Now ask about the Jews. It's about 1.6.
But we want to know what's the largest population in New York, though, right?
Largest ethnic population.
What's the largest ethnic population in New York City right now?
The largest broad racial group in New York City is white.
Your sound cut out.
But still, how did Zoran
there's about
get the main vote?
So there's about one.
Black.
I think there's about 1.6, maybe 1.4 million Jews in New York City. A little bit smaller. And then if you take a look at the Chinese, they're the third largest minority population. I think about 400 to 600,000. Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing is that the Jews do have but they're not. Remember that a lot of them are Palestine supporters, but there is a large split within. So as in terms of like going, because the thing is that there's a big outroar about Mamdani not going to the Puerto Rican event, right? But
No,
the
he
Puerto
did.
Rican.
Remember, he changed it, and he did do the breakfast at
Oh, he did. Oh, I
yeah,
didn't know
he
that.
did it. He did it at
Okay.
the Gracie Mansion, and he also participated at the parade, which he never said he wasn't going to participate. He just said that he wasn't going to do the breakfast, but because of backlash, he changed that.
The Dominicans are significantly larger in population than the Puerto Ricans, and there's quite a few other Latino ethnicities there. But there can be spillover because if the mayor is seen as dissing the Puerto Ricans, other Latin ethnicities may feel that they're also lined up too, right? So there's a mixture of things going on there. So as in terms of not participating in the Israel parade, the Jews are very, very, and the pro-Israeli different groups, but they're very, very strong. The Zionist group is actually, I would say New York City is kind of like the Zionism capital of the United States, with being one of the largest Jewish ethnic populations in the whole United States is right here in New York City. So there's a lot of other things tied up in that. But I do think overall, they say that the youth is actually, including the Republicans, are moving more towards, asking why we're giving so much money to Israel all the time. And I think that's a good question. But once again, you could see the whole news, even the progressive news media that supposedly would want to work with Republicans that have a proven history of fighting against Zionism and Israeli interests and exposing them. They, instead of talking about them, they're actually doing everything they can to suppress that person and to make sure this person, like myself, right, is not acknowledged or covered. I actually have rejection emails from progressive outlets about talking about work. From when I asked them to work together to cover my race, they don't want to talk about that. They want to be the good guys. They want to stand on the top of the hill and say, "Look at who saved you." And I get that. That happens with all the groups.
I just wanted to say hi to Tasharia. What I wanted to also just touch on is relevance in your visibility. Don't you think that you being able to make the ballot shows that you're recognized and that you have a certain level of visibility that you've been able to maintain to the point that you're able to run? Would you say that you have achieved that in some way?
I actually know many other candidates. Like I said, I've been holding this series, only third-party independent candidate debates for several years. For several cycles. And there's a lot of other very high-quality candidates that I've interacted with who've gotten no coverage at all. So a lot of people who haven't really done that type of work, they come to this game expecting like that they might get covered or expecting like that they have an interesting story. Maybe someone will pay attention. I am under no such delusions. I actually see the machinery actually mounting up against me, particularly in public housing. Like I said, I could see that like one Nigel and Mary Jo Biden are having events at public housing to really sell her as a public housing advocate in this race, when she really doesn't have the history or the knowledge or really to back that up. So I do have support, but I have to really, this will never be acknowledged. I have to really, except for maybe someone like yourself, but I have to keep, I'm going to start going door to door more, right? And really focusing on that. I can only count on suppression of my work.
But you've participated in several debates in Colombia. Like, haven't you? When you say you've
I made those debates happen. I'm the one. I ran those debates.
You secured those relationships with Colombia. You secured relationships in the community where you've been having these events with.
I'll be honest with you. That wasn't a connect with Columbia. Actually, that was a student at Columbia who actually gave me access, but the university itself, I'm sure, would never give me access. But through the student, I gained access to that room. So I was able to do it at Columbia. But it was not through official Columbia.
Good job. It was a good job. And you had well-attended. That was a well-attended event.
It was by the candidates, right? But the...
you hosted that, yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
What? I mean, that was a lot of that. I mean, I would say that you are constantly growing, has been growing, and that you obviously have to have some kind of relevance and recognition, facial recognition, work recognition. I mean, you was at the Brick. You was. I mean, don't you think was that the first time at Brick, or you've been to Brick several times for the Be Free?
No, this is my first time for the Be Free Awards, but I'm going to keep going. I'm rolling out too. I went to a Manhattan meeting the other day. I'm actually, right, I'm not expecting, I'm not waiting for somebody to come down and actually pull me up, because I've seen, actually in the Korean American space, there's a new guy named Kang Min Lee, who they're actually, I think he's supposed to be on a placement in the conservative side because they don't want a Korean blowing up in the space, right? So they got to put in a replacement. But actually, it's, I'm getting used to this environment. And the thing is that, like Bernie Sanders, when he spent like decades as a congressperson and didn't get covered, what happened was that eventually it led to that's why he got so much support later on. It's like a spring, right? They're storing energy inside by holding me down. So when that spring releases, I'm going to go way up. So I'm comfortable with settling in at this position. So if they do rise me up artificially, it's actually more concerning, and it's very possible they try to light me up and try to torch me down. But I can survive that. I can survive a lot.
Yes, and you have, and
yeah.
I mean, catapults that's a thing, right? And that does happen over time, because if you're consistent with something, shouldn't we expect some kind of recognition? But when it comes to what you were saying, for like the poor advocate that's in the local community that's trying to stay encouraged, what are some of the things you would suggest for them to try to gain visibility? Because in my opinion, having your own platform is a must, right? Because you definitely have your own platform. You make your own connections. You let people know that you were at the event when you know that the main people are cutting you out, right? So I would definitely say you have to do your own content, your own media content, because other people, you'll be at the same event and they'll cut you out, right? And that's a common thing to do. So you have to be ready to do your own promoting, have your own setup for how you're gonna instrument your own visuals. But what else would you suggest the person to do to just try to make it clear to other people that you're doing the work?
You just got, okay, the thing is that one of the things I talked about earlier about how the housing thing is kind of like the weakest out of like the whole entire group. And I would say that the ones that are kind of like the stronger ones are the people who've been wrongfully incarcerated or people with disabilities. They're just actually, they have to really grapple with the system to really survive more. And most people they have their own problems going on. They can't really explore your problems. So the thing is that your visibility, it can never really truly be. You have to find other people that are willing to fight just for their own engagement and inclusiveness, and will fight that same to be heard inclusion within their own issue. But, I'm not disabled, I'm not wrongfully incarcerated, I'm not in public housing, but I find that the desperados over there. And innovation and understanding the struggle really comes from, there's other things that come with it, like not being taken seriously, like not being seen as an activist. The day that, someone looks at you and says, this person is legit just because of the way they look, you have some advantages that will prevent you from really seeing or understanding, marginalization. So,
but how would you say Malcolm X was able to gain the visibility that he did, being that he was a formerly incarcerated person? He had a lot of stigma attached to him and barriers that many people today go through. So how is he
because
able to
Elijah Muhammad pumped the resources behind him when Malcolm X was shield for Elijah Muhammad. But the day that Malcolm X turned on Elijah Muhammad, by that time, Malcolm X was already a famous brand, and other people saw a way to take advantage of that and decided to push that as a scale. So he became a ping pong ball at that point, being used by other entities to try to fight against each other. But he was still a very strong man in his own regard. But it was really the resources of the NOI that was and Elijah Muhammad that was pushing him to
So
a
the
certain
Nation
extent.
of Islam is what you would say really gave him a brand. The Nation of
They
Islam.
assisted him greatly. It's very hard to rise up in this because they will always create someone against you. They'll create a AstroTurf activist. They'll put someone in your place, someone to say all the same words, who looks better, sounds better, and has all the marketing behind them. That's why when you look in like the music world or the arts world, there's a lot of very good rappers, right? Who once the marketing fell out, they couldn't get anywhere, right? Like
Which
Ali Vegas.
you highlight street you highlight street performers.
Yeah.
You have that, you give them that platform, and you also let them travel with you for different events that you've been having in Queens. And I think that that's important, right? Like you said, like you gain other people and different arenas that are being suppressed. But I'm saying, how did so you wouldn't suggest a person to get involved with an organization like the National Action Network or something to help with their visibility?
Some things you can get visibility for, and some things you can't, right? So if you are someone who isn't really interfering with the leadership's agenda, or if you actually give them credibility, then they will embrace you and they will lift you up as long as you're not a threat. But if you start to champion people to maybe think for themselves, or if you start to help the people that's not getting help in that organization, you might start to be recognized as a problem or someone who's a potential threat. So I usually go to these organizations and find other people that are also being left out, but it's very hard for me to really get help from the organizations or count on them, because the more powerful they are, the more they're getting help from somebody that's actually telling them not to work with me. So the organizations, you could go there and get to know the people themselves, because that's really people want to associate the organization with the leader, but the organization is not the leader. The organization is the community. So once you get to know the community, the leaders will make sure that you never get celebrated, recognized, or covered in that community, but the community themselves will know. So hopefully that community can come out and help you when you really need it.
So when it comes to like your own organization, like you have your own newsletter, you have your own, you're like you have your own organization, right? Your own brand. So when you have that, right? You have your own merch and so forth. Wouldn't you suggest that a person goes that route as well? Like they self market, they get they trademark their brand, right? And they have their own, like they have to create their own name and their own their own mission statement, so they can be able to have that flexibility, right?
No two people can share all priorities or positions. Even you and me, right? We see a lot of things together. We're friendly and all that, but on something we're going to disagree. So a real friend will put power in your hands. A real friend, right, will help you to independently assemble your own fortress and your own base, rather than saying, jump on board my ship, right? And then when we don't align on the same position, you've done all this work helping my ship go this far, and then I just throw you overboard. That's not very good. I should have, if I was really a friend, I'd be helping you build your own ship. You get what I'm saying? And as long as we're heading together, that's cool. And if you need to go your own way, I wish you the best. But maybe we'll come back together at some point.
Right. Which is what I would suggest for the community organizers and people that are activists to focus a lot on, because if we allow one person to represent everybody, all they have to do is get rid of that one person to shut things down. So we don't want that to continue. We're encouraging people. We want to encourage you guys to work together with the community, and that's including people that are not in your race, right? So like we have DJ Elf 7, you know, we have we have Jewish people, we have Italians, Russians, all of these people that you can benefit from by being intertwined with, because we are New Yorkers, right?
Yeah.
DJ Elf, he has all kind of street performers in his genre. Like, all you have to do is look at his channel and you can see he talks to everybody. Whoever's running, whatever, he's gonna interview them, and they can be whatever. He's not just focusing on Asians and Koreans, but he is going to throw it up in your face that he doesn't see the representation there, or they don't have a voice at this platform, which is very good. I mean, we have to have our own self-interest. And I think that that's another issue. I think that a lot of times when we're out here, people try to make you join them on their issue, and it might not help you, because it's not your issue at all. Like, they're just trying to make you talk about something that you're not even interested in. Like, if you're not into gun violence, because that's not something that your family has been impacted by, I would say that we recognize it, we can acknowledge it, but you have to be able to use your platform to talk about the issues that you are concerned about. You have to, because it won't be out there if you don't speak on it.
I would like to say that's one of my biggest issues with Save Section 9. And actually, I actually have this is actually huge for Black ownership and Black wealth. So the thing is that I was actually in student government when I was during the Obama era. And actually, one of the issues that crossed my table was actually public housing. And they said they're going to end public housing as we know it. Politically, it's very difficult to end public housing because the elderly live there, right? And actually, a large amount of Black people actually live in public housing more than other races, because they were actually kind of some of the first ones in and kind of better understand that system and how to actually use that. So the thing is that the way that they were able to make that pass was they said that the people who were living there should be able to own that. So all this talk about, right, Black ownership of homes and things like that, if the people in public housing right now were taught that they could actually own their own homes through the resident management companies, which are actually installed in the 964 regs, right, we could have a new era of Black home ownership. That would just be completely revolutionary for just not just New York City, but the United States as well. The people who are actually living there are supposed to get to own their homes. Now that we've arrived at that point, instead, Save Section 9 is talking a lot about, installing, electric heaters and coolers into the building, right, to try to serve a carbon agenda for the Democrat Party. And I do agree with saving Section 9. I do agree with saving public housing as a concept. But the people who are living in public housing now are supposed to become owners of those homes. And then through their new mobilization, we need to actually build new public housing that is better suited to address the needs of people that are disabled, people that are elderly, right? We could have ramps and have digital, like AI helping them, manage their electrical devices and things like that. But this whole discussion has been thrown out the window to help one group or another maintain control over the captive population, unfortunately.
But I thought your friend that had the panel with Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso and others was focusing on ADA requirements, and the highlight was about advocacy for disability.
Yeah, that's true. But as in terms of public housing, that's a different fight, right? Like, the thing is that now, I'm in Long Island City right now, and there's something called one LIC, and what happened is that the people who bought these large, tall scale developments, actually, you could see these buildings right here, right? These huge high-rise glass window buildings. They put an elevator inside the subway system. So, right, and their doorman elevators have elevators in them, so they're accessible, but they're not accessible to the poor. They're accessible to the rich. You know what I mean? So poor people could use the subway, but it's just, what are they going to come here for, right? There's nothing here for them. So it's the narrative is repurposed to serve one group over another, and people gotta, once again, they're listening to experts instead of actually listening to the actual people who are actually involved. So I'm glad that the disabilities discussion was had, but once again, at that meeting, which public housing could have attended, because public housing is actually there to serve people with disabilities, and they even have buildings that are specifically devoted to people with disabilities. Did anyone from public housing come? No, they didn't.
I mean, I was there. I'm from public housing. Like, I was there via Zoom.
Okay. No, yeah, I appreciate you being there, right? But none of the Save Section 9 was not there. Seeker's not there, right? DOLES is not there, right? Tenant Association presidents are not really there. They're actively discouraged. Actually, I've been banned from performing at all family days. They're actively discouraging. The bureaucracy wants to maintain, NYCHA wants to retain control over the developments and not give the apartments over to the people that are living there. There's reasons to do it and reasons not to do it, but the people who are living in apartments should know.
So
Yeah.
do you support Sandrea Coleman and her advocacy? You know, she's up for election. We have Tamika Mapp. We have people that actually mention public housing and stated. I feel that nobody really at the current mayor office is really interested in public housing. So to hear Congressman Adriano Esquiat talk about it, it made me feel like whoever really actually says it's a platform component is important, because some people don't want to have public housing in the conversation at all. It's just like they just feel like they that's another sample of how they don't care or value people that don't have money. So they just automatically feel they don't have income enough for them to even be in a conversation.
I don't think either of them are permitted to work with me, but between the two of them, I do respect both their work, right? I do think it's, even if they are contained to a certain extent, it's still like valuable work to raise the awareness. But between the two of them, I do think Tamika Mapp is better. She has a newsletter. I don't know if Sandra Coleman, I know Sandra Coleman has a video show that I don't think Tamika Mapp has, but I think that
Sandra Coleman is with NYCHA One.
She's with NYCHA One. But I think that Tamika Mapp, when I read her newsletter, it seems more informed. And her, I know Sandra Coleman is she a district leader? I know she's run for district leader several times.
I know. I mean, I believe she holds the position. Yes.
I've seen that. I've seen her at important events, such as with Carolyn Maloney. I was at the watch party, the campaign watch party. I saw Sandra Coleman there. So I respect her work. She's in some places that matter, but I just not trying to really down Sandra, but I just think that more trying to up Tamika Mapp's work as in terms of really organizing. She's also Tenant Association president. Also, I think. But
have you seen her in places that matter? Like, have you seen Tamika in other environments? Like, I haven't been seeing her any of the meetings I go to.
She also appears at county committee, and she also plays, visible roles there. So, county committee is the group that actually determines the party platform for Manhattan. So, she's actually from Queens, isn't she? From Pomona Houses, but for some reason, she was actually at the Manhattan.
She lives in East Harlem.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. So, but how is she? Isn't she the tenant association at Pomona Houses, which is in Queens?
I don't think she's I mean, she comes to my TA meetings at TAF, and she's always running on a ticket supporting Beverly McFarland, because she's always running Beverly McFarland. But I think I don't know, but I feel like one of the things from the people that I've talked to, one of the things that I think works against her is her being married to a female.
Oh, Tamika Mapp's married to a female?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but the people do. The community does, and they do highlight that. They say, well, she's married to a woman, and I was like, what? Because she doesn't really stand in the public with her, but she's married to a woman. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. So, all right. So, look, neither of them are allowed to really interact or work with me in any real, real way. So, I work with the people that work with me. So I respect what they've accomplished and what they've done, but for some reason they cannot really, and I think that it's some of them, I don't think Sandra is allowed to say what I'm saying, but Tamika might to an extent. I'm not sure, but they don't work with me and they don't really respond to my stuff. So here and there, Tamika might a little bit more, but Sandra, I've been trying to post up on One Night Show, like on their Facebook group for a long time.
Right.
All the stuff has been suppressed. They finally posted one time. I think it was to make it more believable, that because I actually even made a video about how they never post up anything that I have to say there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But why?
No,
So,
yeah.
but why does Marquise? I feel like Marquise has such a bigger. He has a bigger platform, Marquise Jenkins, than everybody.
Oh, he does?
Even though he started out with Save Section 9, I think that his profile is higher than all of them. Save Section 9.
Well, he was doing RPPH, which is Residents Preferred Public Housing, but he doesn't live in public housing anymore. And also Carlina Rivera, he's also a single guy, and you also see him like at the beach and stuff like that. He's I think he's getting paid to actually manage the conversation. Some of the work he does is good, but also he's also there. He'll also stop when he's told to stop, and he'll go when he's told to go. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, I mean, people don't want to lose their income, right?
I can't blame him, right? Like, what's he gonna do? Be homeless like me? Like, I can't really. You know what I mean? Like, if he could have a choice, I could be a regular guy and get paid and have a regular life. Like, look, I'm extremely, like, just my upbringing of being a war survivor and stuff makes me much more resistant to this type of control. You know what I mean? But it's beyond most people's understanding. They're scared of what they don't know. Like, I've already lived this life before, so I'm not saying I'm like super happy about it, but I could deal with it. A lot of people, they've never dealt with it before, so they just can't imagine. But I can imagine it, and I can do it, and I do it.
Well, I went to a rent freeze meeting,
Okay.
where Theo was there. Theo
okay.
attended that, and he was, he was screaming from the audience when public advocate Jamani was speaking, and the public advocate stopped and he said, "What is the problem, Theo?" And I thought that was interesting. Like, he established that he knows him by name, and I thought that was a positive, because that made the audience know that the public advocate acknowledges him. I thought.
Well, actually, Theo ran for public advocate himself. And do you know about Theo's issue?
No.
It's okay. Check this. It is so relevant to COPA and public housing. What happens is that Theo lives in a rent control building. His rent was only about.
That's why he was at the rent freeze meeting.
Yeah, his rent was only about $300 to $600 a month, right? Then what happened is that his building became under the ownership of a not-for-profit like COPA. Okay. What happened is the not-for-profit took out a huge amount of loans on the building, and then they went bankrupt and they disappeared.
Oh.
Now what happened is the tenants in the building are allowed to own the building, but they have to pay off this huge debt that the not-for-profit incurred. Isn't that messed up? That's the third-party transfer. That's the third-party transfer issue that caused Theo to run for office for public advocate in the first place. And he's run, I think, 3 separate times on this issue. Has never been covered on this topic, even now. And he has personal history on fighting the third-party transfer issue, which was really put in place by Sia Weaver, the current appointee by Zoran.
Yes, yeah. Right. Yes.
So,
which is clear that he can't stand her.
Yeah. Look at how relevant. So what's happening right now at the public housing is the number one buildings that are going to get. They have the number of units. They have the complaints. They're the ones who are going to get turned over to COPA. And when these not-for-profits take over the buildings instead of the residents themselves, they're going to cash out big time. They're going to borrow against the value of the property. That property should not belong to them. It should belong to the public. It should belong to people that live there for generations. But in order to mask this and to cover this up, so the third-party transfer stuff is so relevant to what's going on right now, and the people in public housing could have the right to own their property, or it could be jacked out from under them, and it's happened. So that's how I know the news is not going to cover me or my issue, or Nitro One, or any of these groups, because they are there to cover this up and to allow the not-for-profits to there's 1 millionaire group, another million group. The developers want to steal the property from the tenants. The not-for-profits want to replace the bureaucracy and to themselves become the new owners of the tenants.
But I didn't even know nonprofits leave buildings. So that's shocking to hear. I'm not even aware of that. I thought that that the property management through nonprofits are the ones who maintain low income residents and keep the buildings that are very nice. I'm
They're the
shocked.
ones who are working to cover this whole thing up, right? The not-for-profits, a lot of the not-for-profits have people in the media. The not-for-profits at the end of every year, they give actually thousands of dollars to media and media personnel as media awards to award them for, all this, for their help for the community or for covering their issues. The media is completely paid off. That's why they won't cover someone like me or Theo.
And but I think that was, you don't think that was a plus for Jamani to acknowledge him by name? I thought that was a plus. Like he didn't act like he has to get security or anything like that. He felt very comfortable. He said, "Come on, Theo, like come on."
They know the people behind the scenes, like people at Jamani, what I told you, they know everything that I'm telling you right now. Because Theo's been a direct competitor to him. They studied him, stuff like that. They know this is going on, and they feel a little bit bad about it too. But once again, right, they've decided to be quiet about justice for some people, such as housing, who are not going to mobilize in the right way, which is true, right? I have to tell you the truth. I went to Reese houses, did every single door, recorded myself having conversations, got 0 hits on the website. You can't fight for people that aren't willing to fight for themselves, right? So they're abandoning the fight, but some of us that are being impacted, like myself and Theo, right, we're just getting smushed. So the machine is at work.
But
Go
I
ahead,
see
yeah.
you have the press pass. I see you have your
I
press
do.
pass. So yeah,
Got it
congratulations
right
on
now.
that still. So do you happen to bump into anybody interesting that since you have that access?
I use it here and there. I was able to get into a building one time. Sometimes I flash it to try to ease people's concerns. Like yesterday, I had a interview with a lady who was actually, I'm on site right in front of one of the early voting sites. No, actually, this is the election site. It's usually the election site here. But sometimes the early voting, the election site is different. But today is election day, so I'm going to see if there's anybody inside the building voting. But yeah, one of the ladies was nervous, and I showed her my press pass, and then she felt a little bit more at ease. There's this new thing where people say,
I think it's cool.
I run up on camera, a lot of people, who are you? So if I wait, press pass,
you're
it
breaking
makes
up.
them feel a little bit shit, right? So.
Well, I know you're busy, and I thank you for being with me for over an hour. So it's hour and 18 minutes. So I'll let you go because I know you have other things to do. But I really appreciate you coming on and joining me and taking the time out of your busy schedule. And I really want to encourage you to keep out there. And I think you're doing really great work.
I really appreciate you so much, 12 Dales. God bless you. Thank you so much.
God bless you too. Okay, peace and love.
Have a good one. Peace. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. He's busy, and he's got to get out there and check stuff out. But I really appreciate him being with us for so long. You never know how long you can have with a person. So being with me for over an hour, almost an hour and 30 minutes is awesome. But I can give you all the remaining 30 minutes so we can stay on for a good 2 hours. But I just want to let you know that you matter, number one, and what's not happening in your neighborhood. If it's regarding quality of life, the Department of Sanitation is not cleaning your neighborhood or whatever, and you have a right to advocate on that issue. You have a right to advocate on any crime issues you feel like there's new gang activity from a neighboring borough or something, and you have a right to go to your police council meetings. If you're in NYCHA, you go to your PSA meetings. All of these things may help empower you to feel like you have resources available to you. I think that's one of the main things I think you have to establish as well, right? You have to establish who are your allies, what are the resources that you have accessible to you as a member in the community. And if there aren't any resources, how can you build and work on that? Um, what I want to say about that is that one of the things I mean, right, is that being that I am a low income single mother in public housing, I don't have access to copy machines. I don't have um, a lot of things, whereas it could benefit me to be able to create flyers and get information out there, right? And when you know those kind of things, identifying these things that you have some administrative needs matters because you know that and you're doing the work. When somebody that may want to sponsor you, I want you to remember about sponsors, right? But a lot of people that are will be willing to sponsor you, they need to know that you really need that, right? So you if you say, it'll be beneficial for me to have a printer or a computer or laptop or whatever, and they believe that you would actually utilize it, they would you could possibly get that, right? But you have to be serious. I mean, one of the major things that I notice as as a tenant in NYCHA is that a lot of public housing tenant association presidents would get computers donated, and they just would have them like stacked up in storage area or in their apartment, because they always have some kind of excuse, or they want to pick and choose who they want to give the computer to, and it'll be a bunch of nonsense. But in my experience, because I think it's good to share your own personal accounts and experiences, the TA president that I had at the time, her name was Ann Bradshaw. She has passed away. I think she was like 94 or whatever, right? She had gifted me a a a computer with I mean, it was with the works. She had it with the computer desk and everything, And she was the person that gifted me my first turkey, and that's why I started cooking Thanksgiving on my own independently, because I was gifted a turkey, and my first turkey ever was when I was living on my own, and the TA president of my development gave me a turkey. And because I had the turkey, I was like, well, I'm gonna have to cook a turkey. Oh, I'm gonna invite people over to my apartment for Thanksgiving. And it was a wonderful thing. And I want you to remember those things that make your NYCHA development home, because these things make it home, right? And this is your home, and you have to advocate for it regardless of where you live. Um, but as we began with the Rick Chow topic, um, I wanted to come back to that with some video footage of the black lawyer that he had, right? One of the things that they said about another case was that the black family had hired a white lawyer, and they feel that that had worked against them. I thought it was interesting that they said that when Rick Chow hired a black lawyer. He did not hire an Asian lawyer, and he did not hire a white lawyer. He hired a black lawyer, and I thought that dynamic was fascinating, because I said they're accusing him of killing a black child, a black boy, 14 years old, and he's going to hire a black lawyer. I think that was a bold move, right? And he got off, right? He got off. Rick Chow got off, and he's not in jail. But that 14-year-old is gone. He was shot in the back, right? But I thought it was interesting hearing the black lawyer advocate on behalf of Rick Chow. I really do. And I wanted you for yourself to hear some of what was said because I think it's interesting, right? And I think it needs to be heard. And you need to hear it, and because it's fascinating to me.
Because let me tell you with unabashed honesty, they are 1,000% right about the following statement. If Rick Chow executed a human being over a $1 bottle of water, enjoy hell. Let's make that clear. If Rick Chow shot a man in the back stealing $1 bottle of water from his store, you do what you will. Because there's nothing to justify this back and forth. Was he right? Was he wrong? It doesn't matter. Taking a human life over a bottle of water is absolutely ridiculous. It's wrong under any way that you could possibly look at it. And that's why the state has gone out of their way to put this $1 bottle of water up, to put this picture up, because they want you to believe that this is what this case is about. The rest of the story. It has nothing to do with this water. It doesn't. Because if that was what it was about, this wouldn't be a complicated case. As we sit in front of you, the things that we have to talk about is we have to break down everything that we have watched in this case. And we need to break down what the state of South Carolina has presented to you. And as we break it down, we can break it down inside of 3 classifications, what they put on the stand. They put on what they call eyewitnesses. They put on investigators. And they put on experts. You remember? Those are the 3 things that they have given us. So first, let's talk about the eyewitnesses. And the reason I want to talk about the eyewitnesses first is, remember, and I wrote down a quote that the state said, cameras don't lie. For 17 seconds, you could have played the camera. For 17 minutes, you could have played these cameras. If you remember, these witnesses got on the stand, they sat in front of you, and I asked them questions. They looked directly at you. They were talking about what they remembered. They were talking about their memories and how important that is. And then I started asking them questions from right there. You remember? I said, no, I'm not trying to be rude, but I remember you talking to 911. Do you remember that? Yeah. And you said something different to the 911 tape that you're saying right here today. I asked another person, isn't it true that we don't interview witnesses together because they can get their stories together and their brains could get something that didn't really happen? Yeah. And that's on video, correct? Cameras don't lie. And they called 911, and in the 911 call, they said they didn't see anything, correct? Cameras don't lie. But don't you remember, and I asked one of the witnesses, isn't it true that you told them something and they said that was completely impossible? Well, yeah. And then they've met with you, they've talked to you, they've interviewed you and put you on the stand and you told something different. Cameras don't lie. So why are we sitting here and not watching those videos? Why didn't the state give you the 911 calls? Why didn't they give you the videos? Why didn't they give you the information? If cameras don't lie.
What y'all think about how he's talking so far? This is wild. It's a wild case. It's a wild case. I just want to go over some of it for you again, because it's something's not right, right? Something is clearly not right about how the media is trying to spin it. And I don't want you to forget that the media spins things really crazy, because when it came to the Robert Brooks Jr. case, they had originally released that video to the public. It became something that was a national outrage. Nationally, it was national news, but they was trying to spin it as a lynching, as we had this Donald Trump president. And people that were formerly incarcerated and people that had families incarcerated spoke out and said, no, like all those correctional facilities have these kind of units that beat the shit out of inmates. And that there was even people that said that they feel like they wasn't intending to unalive Robert Brooks. It just was a result of something that they commonly do. They called them these, these kill squads or whatever, and it was just a conversation that the mainstream media didn't want to have. So all of a sudden they stopped with it because it wasn't going in a direction where it was supposed to make you focus on Donald Trump in the most negative racist way, where they was like, no, it's the correctional facilities, they have racist cops there. Like it wasn't, it was the move wasn't to Trump, but it was towards physical facilities, and they was talking about specific cases of people that were experiencing the same or similar situations as Robert Brooke Jr. And then once that happened, and the people that were directly impacted started gathering into buses and going to Marcy Correctional Facility, then it stopped being national news. Then only to even hear about following up on that story, you had to go on their local news. Now, this is a story that happened. This situation with Rick Chow and the 14-year-old young man, the child, the teenager, Cyrus Carmack Belton, happened in 2023 in Columbia, South Carolina. Okay. And I just think that they they're trying to push a narrative that should bring suspicion to you. And I feel like they're constantly trying to play us as the people in the public. And if we don't take the time to take these examples and learn from them, we won't. Right? They like to they like to like get us in our feelings, get us outside of rational thoughts, and get us to get enraged. But for what? Why do they want us to boycott Asian businesses? What has happened? When they were saying, oh, we want to help um the illegal immigrants, we want them that they have a right to housing, when they don't even house our own people. We have a right to housing. They have a right to house. They came over here illegally. Like, what are you talking about? That it's just, I just don't see. We're supposed to be so pro immigrant, and now you want to allow people to boycott against these these institutions that you've allowed the people to get hate crime bills for. Like, there's a crime to do something against Asians. So what's going on here? They wouldn't even do that for black people who they lynch even to this day from trees, and we don't have a hate crime bill. Isn't that interesting? You don't think that's crazy? We have so many examples of domestic terrorism, right? They say we fight against foreign and domestic terrorism. I identified the Ku Klux Klan as domestic terrorists, terrorizing black neighborhoods, burning them down to ash, hanging the people, dragging them to their bodies dismembered. And what offense do the people have? What bill, what law is there in hurting black people? It's hilarious to me. Like, when I see little things go on when it comes to them using black people to head some division, I shake my head, because I'm like, how are you using black people when you not even making sure you keeping us from domestic terrorists? You allow them to terrorize our neighborhood. But if a Jew sees, let me just say this properly. If a Hasidic Jewish person sees a swastika, there's a problem, right? All they got to do is see a swastika. It's unbelievable. But you have people that are having these experiences of domestic terrorism, and there's no big deal, you know. And we can't get our own people to unify on the foolishness. And I just think that it should be even a slap in your face that this guy that you mad with has a black ass lawyer. I feel there's so much things to be enraged about. He got a black man representing him, and look how he represented him. Do you think he's doing a good job? And he represented him well. Let's go back to this. Do you know about this guy? Is his name Sean Kent? What's his name? I think his name is Sean Kent.
The rest of the story. I talked to one of the investigators and officers as he took the stand. Remember, we asked him, what is important as an investigator? It's important to get the facts. It's important to get the information. It's important to get the evidence as close to the incident as possible. So we can do what? Remember the question I asked him? So we can give all the information to the jury. The rest of the story. Because what we don't want to do is subject and put our emotions in there, our personal beliefs, our subjective decisions. That's what's happened. The rest of the story. But for some reason, the state of South Carolina doesn't want to give it to you. One of the witnesses took the stand, if you remember correctly. Detective English took the stand. You remember? One of the first ones they put on. And they put the videos up on all of these screens, all this technology that the state of South Carolina has. And they put up all of it. And one of the clips they put up was of Rick Chow's statement. You remember? And they played it, and it said, my son saw, I didn't initially see my son that he had a gun, so when I looked at his hand, and then what did that officer do? He just walked away. We knew there was a second part of the video. Cameras don't lie. It would have taken how long was the quote? 17 seconds to play it. Cameras don't lie. And what was the next question from the state of South Carolina? Isn't it true he didn't tell you on that scene blank? Cameras don't lie. So we literally had to make sure you knew the rest of the story. And what did we do to tell you the rest of the story? We brought that other officer on to tell the rest of the story. And you remember, it went right together. The rest of that statement. My son saw, I didn't see it initially. My son alerted me that he had a gun. So when I'm going to go talk to his son, that's when he walked away. And then the statement kept going. Look at his hand. He actually had a handgun in his hand. The rest of the story. He got up running, then my son yelled, he's got a gun. So when I watched, there was a gun in his hand. That would be some important information for the state of South Carolina to tell you.
And why did the 14-year-old have a gun? Why? What in the world is going on? Why did he have a gun? Why don't we talk about that? I don't really care. I don't even want to talk about that. I just want to make sure that I use my platform to make sure y'all see this weird stuff going on with this right here with that Asian man, Rick Chow, hiring a black. You don't think that was by design? He hired a black lawyer since when? So think about it like this. As a black male advocate, I don't know if Brownsburg is watching. Brownsburg, CIP, whatever, they like to advocate for black men, right? And people like to say that black men aren't respected and all this kind of stuff. Like people don't look at them like they have a skill set. So why would you hire a black lawyer? So black lawyers is all of that. You see how he can read, right? You see how he's referencing written material. You see how he comes off like a real educated man, dressed well, right? You see him, right? He's a black man, though. It's not even a question that he black. He's a dark-skinned man. He's melanated, clearly. And Rick Chow hired him to represent him. You don't think that's strange? Feel free to tell me in the comment section. You don't think that's strange? I just think this is such a weird case that's full of distractions. And I just want to know, What are they trying to distract us from? And why has the result been allowed for them to have this division with the Asians? And I just want people that, if you know Asians and stuff, let them speak for themselves. Let them talk about how they feel, because we got a lot of division trying to be all over the internet with us and the Asians. And I'm like, what's that about? You don't think that's weird? When the people that even was in it didn't have division with blacks, this Asian man got a black lawyer. He don't even have division. So as a result, we gonna have division with the Asians when Rick Chow didn't even have no division? You don't think that's weird? You don't think something weird about that? You don't think something's weird? I think something's weird about that. I think they don't appreciate that Rick Chow got himself a black ass lawyer who got him off scot free. He didn't have to go to jail. So now they let this stuff slide, and we got division. We got division within the community with them Asians. You don't think that's some weird shit? I think it's some weird bullshit. And they always out here with the bullshit. But I want you to look at it from the view of what it really is. Why did Rick Chow hire a black lawyer? Why did he feel confident in him? What kind of stuff is going on here? You don't think it's weird? You don't think it's off? You don't think it's off? I don't see you in the comment section. Let's go back to him. I think his name is Sean Kent. He's a defense attorney. Okay. It's a weird case to me. I think it's weird. I'm back on. Put it back on.
But they need it to be about $1. They need to scare you. They need to make you afraid. They made you think the great Rick Chow, this evil human being over here, killed a man over $1. And that is disgusting. That is awful. That is abhorrent. But that's not what happened. The rest of the story. We don't want to tell you the rest of the story, because if you hear it, then you get to make an intelligent decision, and we don't want you to make an intelligent decision. We don't want you to hear no 911 calls. We don't want you to watch the videos. We don't want you to hear what Rick said at that moment, at that time, without a lawyer, without anyone telling him what to say or do. We had to play those for you. The rest of the story. And as we get in there and we listen to this and we go through all of this information, it becomes incredibly important. We then had investigators take a stand. You remember the questions I asked of the investigators and why they were so important. The state of South Carolina, for you to make a decision, has come in front of you and said, put witnesses on the stand. Guns aren't that bad. 14-year-old kids have guns all the time. And they had witnesses literally with their hands on the Bible looking at you, talking about, guns are prevalent. It's not that big of a deal. That was the testimony. I didn't make that up. That was the testimony that they submitted. Do I think they believed any part of that? Not a line of that. But they have emotion. They're upset. And they want you to believe it's about a bottle of water. It's not. The rest of the story. And then there was an expert who took the stand. Do you remember? I asked her a very directly question. I had her sit right here. She stood in front of you as if she was Rick Chow. And I showed her what we said Mr. Belton could have been doing. And what did she say? Yeah, that's possible. The rest of the story. She described the bullet path, back to front, right to left, slightly upward. The rest of the story. We got to avoid all of that because that changes our narrative. So now we go into what they did present. And let's talk about the part of the case that we're all wondering about, the thing that everybody's there, and if it's in your gut, it should be in everybody's gut. And they spent their entire case. Their case was a day and a half, and most of it they spent it on one part. The chase. The chase. The chase. They shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have done it. You remember one of the witnesses, the investigator?
And I agree to that. I agree that they shouldn't have chased him. Okay, I saw the video. If you wanted me to show it, you can let me know. But I saw the video, and one of the things that I found highly disturbing was that when they decided to chase the 14-year-old teenager, he's a kid. I'm just telling you, as a mother, okay, as a mother, I would be so highly disturbed. I would be highly disturbed. I'm not, I am highly disturbed. I'm highly disturbed. I'm highly disturbed seeing the video, seeing the whole thing. But he had ran, and then Rick Chow and his son and his wife, right? So Alice Chow and his son, they ran after him as a family, and somehow his wife, Alice Chow, had acquired the 14-year-old sneakers and 2 cell phones and came back into the store with that. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? Why she took his sneakers and stuff? What is it? And I just don't understand it. You know, I don't understand why they couldn't just let him go and call the police if they felt anything. But it just felt like right away there was racial profiling done on him, because once he came into the store, they asked him to take off his book bag. And I wanted to say this publicly. If you go to a store, children and young men, and they ask you to remove your book bag, just go to another store. Like, this is not the store for you. Because what are they doing? They're already trying to strip him. Once he came into the what was this, the Shell gas station, they asked him to remove his book bag. Why are you removing anything? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you removing anything? So it's just a very frustrating case. And, you know, I really don't know the whole thing about Sean Kent and what, but that's why they say that lawyers are what they call lawyers. A lot of people don't respect lawyers, because lawyers are gonna do what they're gonna do. And if you a crook, a criminal, and you got a loophole in the system, they gonna get it for you. That's what you're paying for, right? I don't know how much he got paid to do this, but this is a lawyer. Lawyers got a bad rep, but we should be encouraged to that we got a black lawyer, and there's a lot of black lawyers out there, and it's just a lot of different feelings I feel with this case. But I did not appreciate that they asked the young man, the kid, to remove his book bag once he got in. So I felt that they was already identifying him as a possible problem. What I just wish he would have. I just wish he could have just said, I don't feel comfortable removing my item, because who said somebody couldn't have walked in there and stole his book bag? I don't feel comfortable removing my item. And just left. They turned the butt around. But that's not afforded to him. Now he's gone in the ground. His parents no longer have him. But we have to always try to be about solutions and conversating moving forward, right? And I would say, if you're in an environment where someone's already trying to make you feel like you are a possible criminal, I don't think you should go in there. Like, for me, a practice of mine is I don't go into stores that have pictures of Black and Hispanic people on the front of their windows. Like, you come to the store and they have those. I don't go shop. I don't bother to waste my time in stores like that. I find it highly offensive, and I don't appreciate it at all. I don't like it, and I think it's very I think it's a ghetto thing to do. I feel it's that automatic. It's a ghetto store. I consider it ghetto, and I don't shop in ghetto places. I don't. I don't waste my time. I don't. And I will leave if somebody takes the time out of their day to act like they gotta follow me around. You understand? Like, I don't need it that much. I know enough places. I just go somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Because I value myself more. And I just think that we got to always come back to our people and our children valuing themselves, because the stuff that a lot of these things that be going on is really about it's so much, it's so many levels to where we could have just stopped, where we could have just stopped. And I would have stopped once I opened the door and they asked me to take my book bag off. How dare you? You understand? How dare you ask me to take anything off? I'm just coming in here to get something. That's in and out. That's what that see we walking around and doing too much for some places. But why you can't leisurely look, right? You should be able to leisurely look around. Maybe there's something that you don't know that you want. Maybe you have something there that you may want. I just I just think it's a disturbing case, and so many of the details of the cases is disturbing. And the way that this lawyer is talking about it gives me a headache. I'm not gonna keep you on forever. Okay, 9 more minutes. Thank you so much for being with me. I appreciate you. You know I love you guys. I love you. I love you. I love you guys.
Investigator got on the stand and I had to ask him the question, is there anything illegal about that? No, sir. But that's what they're talking about. Well, common sense. We don't want you to do it, but it's not illegal. That's an important distinction to know. This is a store. The testimony was they've owned it for 11 years. Margins are small. You've seen the wall of shame. People have shoplifted, people have stolen. Chased them. I've been stolen from. I chased the people to Georgia, flat out. It's their property. They're emotional about it. And that's why he ran after it. The question isn't, do you think it's right? The question is it legal? And then you go to the second part of it's illegal. If it was illegal, don't you remember Andy Chow sat up there on the stand? And Mr. Scott got right in his face, and he was yelling at him, and he was going angry with him, and he was saying everything to him. But the one thing he didn't say to him is, and you have been charged with following this young man out of the store. And you are criminally liable for following this young man out of the store.
Okay, you heard him. So can we do that as a people? Can we go before state legislation and make that a crime then? Can we make it a crime for, can we make them criminally liable for leaving, all of them leaving from you leaving your post to run after one person? Can we make it where it is standard procedure that if someone steals something from the store, that you just automatically call the police and allow the video footage to do what it does, instead of you remove yourself from the store when you have other customers there? There's other customers there. Why would everybody leave? Yes, he says they're emotional. He's just using it as a human thing, but no. So then the people have to make it a law, not running after every nail salon. He wasn't even in a nail salon. He wasn't at a Chinese food establishment. So what are you talking about? I'm not understanding. We need to make it a law if that's the case. He said they didn't do anything criminal, right? So then that's what we have to establish. We have to establish that this is criminal. Just like in New York, they made cops doing a chokehold on Eric Gardner illegal. We have to make it illegal for them to take their behinds from their post to run after some child that they accused of stealing something. Ridiculous. Because look at him. He's saying they didn't even do nothing illegal. They didn't do nothing illegal. This is nonsense. Very upsetting. So make it illegal then.
Because he's not. He's not liable. He's not criminally liable. He has not been charged. And he did not do anything wrong. But when you Monday morning quarterback and come back and look at the situation and say, well, why? You know what? They could have done this. They could have done this. They could have done this. Because that's what the state's case is. Think about it. How many times did you hear throughout the course of this trial the great state of South Carolina say the following sentence? They could have done this. 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 They don't have evidence to offer, but they have fear, passion, emotion, and they want to get that out of you. They want that fear, passion, and emotion, and for you to ignore the law. We do not get to take the law the way that we want it to be. We take the law the way that it is. Let me say that again. We don't get to take the way that we want it to be. The solicitor can't say, well, I want it to be illegal for a shopkeeper to go out of the store. Shopkeepers should not be able to follow somebody. That's what I want.
And that's what they should be pushing for moving forward. Because someone lost their life. A young 14-year-old person lost their life. And so we need to change that. We need to make it a law. Because it's so true. Fear, passion, and emotion is not going to get nobody nowhere. Not in court. See, in court, you can say that I perceived that I had an agreement that the person that I loaned $500 to was going to give it back to me. But the judge will say, did you get that in writing? But you know, this is somebody that I always work with, and did you get it in writing? Do you have anything? Show me the proof. That's all they about by the time you get to court. So it's never been about fear, passion, or emotion. And this is time for people to. Anytime we have a loss, we need to group up and get educated. You know what we got these legal clinics for? Why do we have these lawyers and stuff? It's time for them to educate the community, because this is why we always having things go. It's ongoing, and then we feel like why they always getting off? Why we always have these losses? No, we don't have losses. We don't have losses. We have people that are doing things illegally, and they get somebody that doesn't have compassion to addressing them, and they might be too aggressive, or they may do something that is uncalled for, but see, it's not illegal. Look at that. Look at that. You say, oh, that was uncalled for, and you get all enraged, but it wasn't illegal. Look at that. Look at that. It wasn't illegal. Really?
Andy, that's what I want. That's not the law. And then there's one last part that he, for some reason, has ignored. Let's say one of you, just one of you, for argument's sake, are sitting back there and you say, you know what? I think they are at fault in bringing on difficulty. It may not be legal, it may not be illegal, but I just don't like the fact that they follow him for 130 yards. I do not like the 130 yards. I do not like the 130 yards. Well, the judge is going to charge you on something on the law, and it's called withdrawal. Let me explain that concept to you. Let's say one of you start a fight. Let's say I start a fight with Mr. Scott. And let's say I go up to him and I say, I'm going to get you. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to hurt you. And I start the fight and I come at him. And I'm about to hurt him. And then all of a sudden I said, you know what? This is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. And I turn around and I'm like, I'm over this. And Mr. Scott brings a knife and comes out. Well, according to their theory, I got to let him stab me. According to their theory, I got to let him hurt me, even though that I have withdrawn. Well, that is the law of withdrawal. If an individual says, if they withdraw by words or actions, the right to self-defense is back on the line. The rest of the story. And don't take my word for it, the judge is going to instruct you on the law, and that's one of the things he's going to talk about. So when we talk about the chase, when we talk about why did they run out of the store, when we talk about they shouldn't have gone out of the store, as I've told you, you legally have a right. The officer, their own witnesses told you they legally have the right. This officer with 25 years of experience, dealt with shoplifting, dealt with this. And says, we prefer you not, common sense. But then there's a lie.
Amazing. Well, I don't want to hold you longer than I have to. You've made it with me for 2 hours, and I appreciate you for doing that. And you know, it's messed up. It's just messed up. It's just messed up. But I don't want our community to divide over this, especially in New York. I mean, this didn't happen in New York. Okay. It didn't happen in New York. It happened in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm not saying that that's their problem and that it's not we're not aware of it because it's national news. But I'm just saying that it's not New York. And in New York, they went and changed the law. Okay, they took that guy selling Lucy's and choked him to death. While he's screaming he can't breathe, and they didn't care. So now we got a no choke law in honor of Eric Adams, and you need to do something in honor of Rick Chow. That's what I mean, in honor of the young boy Cyrus Carmack Belton. And he said, Mr. Belton, he talking about that kid, that 14-year-old kid. That's what his parents need to be doing. Just like Eric Gardner's mother. He was a grown man. He was a grown man, and his mother, she wouldn't stop. You hear me? His mother was like, oh hell no. You hear me? And that's what his parents need to do. Need to get these laws changed in his honor, because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. But thank you. Let's go on with your day. Let's go on with your day, guys. Let's try to get some happy thoughts. This is not happy, but we want to always bring it back to reality. See, why did they get off? We need to really do that, because see, you need to know. You need to know, because it might look like it don't make no sense, but look at him. Look at him. Look at the black man advocating for this Asian guy. Lawyers. Lawyers. Anyway, let me do a prayer for you. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for our life. Thank you for your presence, that we can come to you when we are stressed out and we need you. We want to thank you for provisions that you provide for us. We want to thank you for blessing America. We ask you, dear Heavenly Father, to intercede when it comes to this case. We want you to cover the family that has lost a 14-year-old child. We want you to cover the neighborhood and the state that this happened in. We want you to move about the hearts of the people that are stressed out and feeling helpless, and that they're traumatized about the situations that's going on. Bring the people that they need into the community to empower the community, so they don't feel like they are being taken advantage of, or they're just somebody's predatorily going off after them, or that they feel like there's somebody in the community that is domestic terrorists, that they feel like their community is being terrorized by other groups. I want you to come in and bring some peace to the situation there, Lord, and bring peace into those that are here, that see this, that get the replay. And I thank you for that, dear God. Bless our nation, dear Heavenly Father, and bless those that are helpless, voiceless, and in need. This we ask and pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Love you guys. Bye.